I know what you guys are thinking. Like, what's with all the episodes on different colors lately? We've done green, we've done red. Our last episode was blue. Well, this episode is called Back in Black. On this episode of Attack of the Killer Podcast.
Attention planet Earth and beyond. Stay tuned for Attack of the Killer Podcast. 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 Time for the show. Yay.
What?
Hello and welcome to Attack of the Killer Podcast. I am your host, Insane Mike. This is episode 312. Man, I can't even count that high. And we are going to be talking about films featuring African American actors and or directors. That's right. What'd you guys think we were going to talk about? Films with the word black in the title? How dare you? Open your minds. Now, if this is your first time listening to the show, we are a horror movie podcast where a group of friends, we get together with a topic and we talk about movies within that topic. Now, we speak openly and freely, so there may be spoilers. Be careful. And if you like the show, I would like to take this moment and ask you all to check out our Patreon. When you donate to our show, you become part of the Attack of the Killer podcast family that we call the Attackers. As an attacker, you can get access to all kinds of extra content. Attack of the Killer podcast offers more for your money than most other podcasts, I think. You can get bonus episodes, YouTube shows, membership card, sticker, and certificate. There's our chat called Attack of the Killer Chats and our monthly horror hangouts, both exclusive to attackers. You can even get to be part of the show by picking a movie for our watch parties and even pick a movie for our Patreon Picks episodes. You can even get shout-outs on the show like these attackers right here.
Yeah, like Timothy Lennerer, Roman Doppelfeld, Larry Watanabe, Brett Royer, Seth Key, Jessica Irish, Chris Cook, Brian Godsill, Stephen Sitter, Brandy Moore, Andrew Mueller, Hot Rod Hutchinson, Carmen DeHague, Abraham Moreno, Andrew Bentler, Casey Kelderman, Tony Miller, Mike Clayton, Rose Talashoma, Abe Kirshner, Lisa Cavalier, Holly Berg, Bill Fisher, Emily Randolph, and Greg Diedrich. What a list.
That's an amazing list, and you too can be on that list. You can get that and all that other stuff, plus so much more. All you got to do is go to jointheattackers.com, pick the tier that best suits you, and you become an attacker. That's jointheattackers.com. And now it's time to introduce you to the podcast crew. You know him. He's the one that's going to tell you how all of these films connect to Doctor Who. Brian.
Well, that's accurate. Hello, everybody.
You know him and you love him. He's the guy who says trivia, and he announces what we watch segments, and he's the one who gets cut out of commentary tracks. Tad!
Oh, I'm trying to figure out the catch here. Why are you just being literal?
Yeah.
What's the catch? Hey, guys.
You're always so suspicious of my intentions.
For good reason.
When you hear that clicking noise throughout the show, it's just him playing with his Transformers. Jason!
Hey, that's me, and it's probably very true and accurate. Thanks for tuning in.
What do you guys think we do around? What we do? Just sit around all day watching movies? Well, to prove you right, here's Tad with what we watched.
Well, I know Brian and I have both been to the theater again and seen a movie there's a movie we both seen in the theater this week. So I'm just going to go right to you, Brian. What have you been watching?
Oh, well, that's sweet. Can I be a whore for a minute before I do this?
Please.
We assume.
Always.
As opposed to any other time?
I just realized today that although I missed the actual publication date
Right.
by a week and some change, my short story collection, Putting the Ground to Sleep and Other Weird Tales, is a year old.
Oh, happy
time
birthday.
flies.
Hey, happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah. So, Paperback and ebook versions can be found on Amazon. You can get a hold of them through me if for some reason you want me to scribble in one. I have copies. And as always, it's free to read if you have Kindle Unlimited. So,
And next on what we read, Brian.
well, just today at work, I finished Whisper of Wings by Steve. Anyway. Yes, Abigail. Terry and I went to see Abigail last week. And so I was
yes.
very excited. And I knew very little about it other than that it was a vampire movie and it was radio silence, which I didn't even need the vampire part. You could have just said it's radio silence and I would have been there. But I'd heard that, I guess I did know, well, I didn't know this because it's not true, but I'd heard that it had some ties to Dracula's daughter, which turns out to, like, to the movie Dracula, which it fucking doesn't. There's nothing at all to do with that other than there's a spoiler for people who've seen it, I guess, or haven't seen it. They played a little too much with the Swan Lake gag, I think. That is really my only complaint. It happens in the titles, and that's great. And the second time it pops up, it's like, okay, I get it. You can play with it diegetically too. That's fun. But they do it several more times. Like, Jesus Christ, okay, we get it. Swan Lake is the only music in the original Dracula. You don't need to keep
They
handing
integrate
it to
it
us.
into the score, sort of like in the Batman, how they integrate Something in the Way by Nirvana into the score. They do
Right.
the same with Swan Lake, where it's like the composer uses the melody of Swan Lake into his own score, which I thought was cool, but I've had it stuck in my head for over a week now, and
Yeah.
it probably just popped into Jason. We're in a music league together, and I picked Swan Lake in the last round, and he's like, "Now
What the
I
hell
get
is a
why."
Makes
music
sense.
league?
Dude, it's awesome.
That's a different podcast.
Oh, okay. Well,
Coming to
anyway,
the PFPN.
I appreciate it that they did that, and it was a nice little fun nod. And also, there's a character named Lambert, and the name of the director of the original Dracula's Daughter, the Universal horror flick, it was also named Lambert. So that's the other tie-in, I guess. But it's really funny. It's insanely gory. The little girl who plays Abigail, I was shocked to find out she was 14. I genuinely thought she was like 11 or 12. But her performance is phenomenal, and all the ballet shit that she incorporates into the fight scenes, like, she's going places. I mean, obviously she's already is places, but like, yeah, if she continues, manages to get through Hollywood undamaged as a child actor and continues into adulthood, I think she'll do some great stuff. But
Well, speaking of that, is this the first time you've ever said, I was surprised to hear she was 14? I thought she was...
yeah, that kind of had a little Harvey Weinstein edge to it, didn't it? That's not how I meant it.
Don't soundbite that.
I was going to make fun of him by saying on the DVD box it'll have a quote from Brian says, "She is places." He just,
Yeah, I did like that.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
the
yeah, she kicks
writer.
ass.
Yes.
but yeah, and as does everything else about the movie. Dan Stevens is great. I can't ever remember his name. He's pops up in a lot of stuff. Usually he's the muscle or whatever, but I've seen him be the lead in some other low budget stuff. But the Quebecois
Yeah.
strongman guy who, like, he's so good at playing like the friendly giant dumb guy. But I've seen him play other stuff too, so it's like it's just a good performance. But I watched Sweet Home. Did I bring this up last time?
I don't think so. Doesn't
I
sound
don't.
familiar.
I don't think I did. It's a Japanese movie that is the basis for was the inspiration for the original Resident Evil game, because it had an NES tie-in, like,
Neat.
promotional game in Japan, and that is somehow what turned into Resident Evil. It's a real cool weirdo ghost story about some people who are going to investigate a haunted house, and turns out the house is a whole lot more haunted than they thought. Haunted Cop Shop 2, continuing my hog wild for Hong Kong.
It's a new segment coming.
Yeah, it's the comedy's every bit as good as the first Haunted Cop Shop, but I think the horror works a little better in the second one, so that's well worth checking out if you can find it. And finally, I'll stop on Calamity of Snakes.
Yes.
I somehow thought I'd seen this movie already when I bought the Blu-ray. I was like, I should just own this. And then I started watching it last week, and it's like, oh, I haven't seen this. And then I just, like, I know it's got a reputation as being like Snake Murder, the motion picture, and it absolutely is
It
that. So
totally
if
is,
you
yeah.
don't like animal violence, I don't think there's a single scene in this movie that doesn't have some sort of horrific violence against a snake. But if you can stomach that, the idea of the movie is this real estate developer is building an apartment building, and as they're digging the foundation for it, they unearth thousands and thousands of snakes. And all of the workers are like, oh shit, we need to call the animal control people in here to clean this up. And the developer's like, no, let's just kill them all. And they're like, but that's bad luck. And he's like, I don't fucking care. This is costing me money. So he smashes them all to death with an earth mover. And then they go ahead and build the apartment building, and it becomes haunted by the vengeful spirits of all these snakes, led by a flying boa constrictor, which is sometimes played by a puppet and sometimes played by the corpse of an actual boa constrictor that they just fling around the set on a wire. Now, I feel like as watching, and this is a I think a Taiwanese flick, not a Hong Kong one, but the two cinemas have a very similar vibe. I've seen much on the surface weirder movies, like things with crazy black magic shit with ghosts and monsters and all kinds of bizarre things. And this movie really just has a bunch of snakes in it.
Yeah.
So on the surface, you'd think it wouldn't be that weird. But as you're watching it, like, it hit me. This is the kind of movie where if you just described the scene by scene, the events of the movie to someone, they would think you were having a stroke. Because it's just fucking weird, but it's awesome. Calamity of Snakes.
It's a lot of snakes, guys. It's not like, I'm being chased by, one or two snakes.
Yeah, you can't have that would be a misfortune of snakes, an inconvenience of snakes, if you will. But to have a calamity, you must have thousands.
You got to
of
live
them.
up to that word, yes. There's like thousands pouring out of like air vents and stuff.
Misfortune of snakes.
I remember very vividly as a kid, my grandparents lived on a farm, and going out there, and my cousin started the riding lawnmower, and a snake had made a nest underneath it, and the blade took out like a pile of babies, and they were, as a kid, like thinking, it was like a bloodbath and fucking terrifying because they still move after they've been sliced and diced, and he felt really bad about it, but that's what it makes me think of. Anyways,
Dang.
Jason.
Oh,
What did you watch?
Yeah, I've watched some stuff. Last time I had watched Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but I finished that trilogy off with Dawn and War, and my gosh, it's so good.
So good.
So freaking good. And you're right, Brian. It just gets better with each one, so I'm excited for the new one. I tried not to watch the trailer, but it comes on sometimes, and I'm like, I'm going to watch it because it's so cool. I mean, I'm scotch nervous because, it's been a while, and 2017 and was the last one, and it feels like they're just talking now. Like even in that last one, it's still kind of like half grunt, half talking English words, but they're just like they're just talking. But anyway, it looks awesome, and I'm excited for that. I did make
Which
it.
one? Let's say which one has the kid from Harry Potter? Is that the very first one?
Harry Potter.
Yes. Draco Malfoy is like the
Yes,
shitty
yeah.
zookeeper who
Gotcha.
fucks with him in the
That you want to fucking get it, yeah.
and he gets it. Yeah.
Yep.
But the other two have Maurice, and he's the best.
Yeah, he's so
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. I just started thinking of the ending. Okay. I made it to the theater, and I saw Civil War.
Fuck yeah.
Gosh dang. Yeah, everything you said last episode was right. It didn't really pick sides. It was just like, hey, all you fucks watch this. Nobody wins. Okay, learn that lesson, please. But was thrilling and engaging, and I think I sat on a cat. I'm sorry. That's my bad. But yeah, I love it. But I hated it. But I loved it. It's just so heavy, man. It
And
took days to shake that movie.
I was saying, how is Jesse Plemons in it for 2 minutes, and he's the guy you remember?
Fucking right, he is. That scene is one of the hardest scenes to watch in cinema. It is the
I've seen some great
of fear.
I've seen some great
damn.
memes come out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like him standing there. It's in the trailer, so it's not really a spoiler, but him standing there, and he's looking at it, and it says, you're a Weezer fan? What kind of Weezer fan?
Of course, that's in your feed. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that guy's movies and shows and everything he does. it's really been great. So big supporter.
How about the scene where they're driving through the woods when they're on fire? Like, that blew my mind. With like the blowing embers, just really beautiful and slow mo.
I don't care if it's exactly realistic or not. It was incredibly shot.
Right.
Just amazing.
I want to really know, like, this is an A24 movie, like, how much of what I was looking at was, like, actual tons of helicopters, or, you know what I mean? Like,
it felt there.
Yes. Tanks and shit. I'm like, when did A24 become fucking Michael Bay? But good.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing much any not practical stuff. Maybe there was like a enhancement of blood splatter and a couple of them gunshots, but really it wasn't. It was all on screen. It was amazing. Just heavy, so poignant. And then lastly, I made it all the way through Fallout, and holy shit, that show is awesome.
Yeah.
How many episodes?
There's 8 or 9.
Yeah, I thought maybe 10, but you're probably right. 8.
And they dropped them all at once?
Yes.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
And so I have zero reference to any of it, and so I loved it. There's nothing for me to nitpick at all.
Was the first episode a little overwhelming, not knowing anything?
No,
Okay.
I didn't think
all right,
so.
That's fine.
Maybe
That's good
because
to
you
know.
warned me. Warned us.
Maybe.
I'd be like, all right, pay attention to every fucking thing. But nah.
It's just a lot of mythology right out of the gate.
Sure, you got to set up that world.
Yeah, and there's a lot to that freaking world.
But yeah, it's was super interesting. Just so cool. The monsters are so scary with the finger teeth. Jesus Christ, it's fucking awesome. It's cool. I like it. I'm not going to play the video game, but I'll watch the next season. And that's what I watched.
That leaves you, Mike. What have you watched?
Okay, well, I haven't had a chance to watch too much over the past couple weeks. I've been furthering my trying to catch up on things like either in my collection or just things I've overlooked. And you guys we all have those movies that we hated the first time around, or it was pissing us off so much that we shut it off and never finished it. But then several years later, you think, well, I'm going to give it another shot. And
I've done that.
I have a list of those movies that have taken years to get all the way through because I keep shutting it off, and just think, well, one of these days my mind's going to change, and a lot of them they don't. And this is another one of those that has not changed, but I finally made it all the way through the movie. Brace yourselves, you guys are probably going to be upset with me on this one, but I watched Very Bad Things.
Oh.
And I do not like that movie. I love dark comedy. I love dark comedy, but there does have to be comedy along with the dark, and I can laugh at some pretty dark and twisted stuff for sure. But and as much talent as there is in front of the camera in this movie, I love all those actors. They just missed the mark on the comedy. My biggest problem with the whole movie is I was very, very annoyed with the mumble yell dialogue. Just 90% of the movie is them yelling at each other, and not in any coherent conversation because it's just all on top of each other, and I can't make out half the stuff that they're saying. It's like headache inducing. I could not stand it. The only time I really chuckled and thought it was funny was the very, very ending, which was like super dark and grim. That I dug, but leading up to like what happens to Daniel Stern in the movie, I was just anxiety ridden through the whole thing of how are they going to get out of this. And at some point, especially in a dark comedy like this, you just got to be along for the ride, knowing that this is way, way out of reality, and it's not. You just can't worry about it. You can't worry about these characters. But I just never really found any fun out of this movie. So, yeah, thumbs
Did you
down.
think of Andy as Christian Slater?
Did that help in any
Because
way?
I cannot see him without hearing Andy now. So
Yeah, this is true. This is true. And this is the thing. I love Christian Slater. I did not even like him in this movie. John Favreau, he was kind of dud. And, I just feel like none of them really got how to flip this into something humorous.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, good. I thought maybe I'd get chastised for hating that movie.
God damn it! No, I've never seen it. So
Oh, okay. All right. And then the only other thing I saw, but at least it's something new and recent, I did watch Late Night with the Devil.
Fuck
I
yeah.
almost did.
I'm super bummed I didn't get to see it in the theater. What a unique film to see on the theater screen, where it's all as if you're watching this guy's 70s late night talk show.
yeah, I'm sort of glad I didn't see it in theaters, to be honest,
Really? Okay. Well,
because
fair.
it's meant to. It's TV footage, so it sort of fits that you're watching at home on a TV.
Yeah, I just thought that just the novelty of it on a big screen would be very just something different. But
Yeah,
The theater experience would really make that AI pop.
Okay, yeah. Do we want to get into that? Because I started reading reviews after I watched the movie when I was logging into the letterbox, and all these people are freaking out about the AI thing, and I'm like, what AI are we talking about?
There's apparently some of the interstitial art, like if they're still things between segments or something. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet. Based on some of the hints, I'm afraid I might end up having to watch it for Joe Bob on Friday. But
I think,
it's
Mike.
in
I
between
think
stills. Like, what? How's that AI?
I think when they go to like the station cards, sometimes there's one where
the interstitial cards. That's what it is.
and there's a certain scene. I don't. This is a spoiler when things aren't going well, and it looks like the screen is sort of melty or the film is getting eaten or something.
Yeah, and I guess I don't fully understand what the difference then between AI or CGI or
A guy's pushing the
III.
button to do that either way, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's all through computer. So what's the
Except
difference?
if
And I
it's-
thought
if
AI
it's-
meant
Brian,
artificial
explain
intelligence.
If it's created through CG, there's still programmers and renderers making the whole thing. AI is a program trained to create images based on stolen art, be it image-based art, be it language, writing, whatever. That's how AI works. If you tell AI, show me an image of this, that, or the other thing, it's because the people who created it have fed hundreds of thousands of images that they did not pay the artists for into it to train this computer program to amalgamate something out of them. It takes money away from artists, and it's bullshit, and it should fucking die in a fire.
Like I'll use it at work in Photoshop and say, there's a picture of two kids and there's a pile of dog shit next to them in the grass. You circle the pile of dog shit and you do a content aware fill, and the AI takes the grass that's around the dog shit and fills in the dog shit with grass. It's not stealing the grass from anyone else.
Right, and that's not quite the same thing.
But that's
that
AI.
If you wanted to put the
is it?
dog
That just
shit
seems like
into-
something you could do with a copy and paste on Microsoft Paint already.
You used to be able to do that, but this is smarter. It's using AI because it's telling it use the
Sure.
material around the dog shit
It's an
to
And
advanced
that's
fill in
fine, but
clones
when
the
you're
dog shit.
when you're
really.
telling it to generate an image, like to make
Like they
me a
did
picture
in
of
this
Godzilla
movie.
eating pizza, or right in this movie, that is something they could have paid a human artist for, but they chose to cheap out and tell a computer that stole shit from other human artists to do it instead, so they didn't have to pay anyone.
They did pay a human artist to use the seed.
No, that's not
AI.
No, telling if you go to a restaurant and order food, are you a chef?
If I go
Telling
to
a
Subway,
computer you are not
At Subway you are.
you are not an artist if you saying, "Hey computer, make me a picture of a thing." You're not an artist. No. That's not the same thing. It's bullshit. AI is awful.
Okay.
And it's threatening to take jobs away from graphic artists, from fine artists, from writers, from voice actors now. Now there's a thing, if you publish a book on Amazon, it gives you an option to generate an AI voiced audiobook.
Oh yeah.
That is the fucking devil. And anyone who does that should be drummed out of the artist community.
I can agree with all that, absolutely. Yeah, like I don't want to ever take anything away from, as an artist, I don't want anything taken away from artists. I just was confused reading reviews when I thought I was reading a review about a movie and not a preconditioned what they think of the movie based on something they learned about the movie before watching it.
Right.
I know people.
I wanted
were-
to see reviews on the movie.
I know
That's-
people are still
and I'm
upset
like, if
too
people
about
are upset
CG.
Yeah, well, yeah, me too. But if those reviewers are that upset that their whole review is based on the hatred of AI, why did they watch it in the first place? That should have been the stance. But I agree. FAI.
Like, for example, there have been a bunch of bands lately, Pestilence is one of them, that got in a whole bunch of shit for, they put out a new album and used AI to generate the cover art rather than paying an artist to paint it for them. That is shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just
Absolutely.
gonna scrub some dog shit out of a photo for a school brochure, fucking whatever, that's not the same thing. But if you are wanting an entire original piece of art, and especially if you're like musicians are artists too. So if you, as one type of artist, decide to completely step over another type of artist to save a couple $100, like, fuck you to death.
Yeah, I mean, there's levels to everything, right?
Right, exactly.
So I'm curious about with this movie, like if an artist created the cards and they used AI to warp them into looking like they were being, because this movie's about possession, the cards start going possessed, I guess you would say, like sort of off, like the TV stations flickering, going, interruptions. And so I'm
Okay.
curious if they use it to replicate like what a 70s TV show, like when it had over-the-air interruptions. I'm guessing after watching this, that's what they used it for. And still, I mean, I imagine, I don't know. In this case, I imagine it's a lot like what I'm doing in Photoshop, where there's probably almost like in After Effects or something, a filter, and it's using AI and replicating a 70s look or something. You know what I mean?
Sure. That's an interesting point, and I don't know the answer to that. I haven't seen
Yeah.
the movie, and I don't know that much about it. So yeah, you could be right.
So I watched Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah, I really wanted to
And how was the AI?
ask that every time now, Ted. Please.
I liked the movie. The human actors that were real were great.
And the computer actors.
I can never remember his name, but the guy who's the lead.
Dalmatian?
Yeah, I love him and everything he does, and it was so exciting to see him get a lead. And he did a lot with his character. There's just a lot. I can imagine it as an actor. It's got to be difficult to portray emotions, but try to hide it while being the host of a late night talk show. Like he's on the air and he's doing his charisma late night talk show, but you just see, pain in his eyes or fear or whatever. So I thought he did a great job, and I also like the fact that they use this they use this technique as being like this tape of an old late night talk show to tell its story. And we've seen a lot of this kind of stuff lately. And you see it in like different found footage messes with a lot in the medium and whatnot. And yet, though, it doesn't overly concern itself with trying to keep things in reality, because it goes way over the top in the third act, and I really appreciated that. It wasn't like Paranormal Activity where the big scary moment is a chair moves across the floor. Like, this really just goes for it, and I really loved it for it. So, AI or not, I recommend the movie. Anyway, that's all I watched.
How about you, Tad?
I too watched Late Night with the Devil. I liked it. It didn't blow me away. And Jason loves when I do this. Compare movies to other movies.
Yeah,
I was like, I've seen not even the same story, but it felt like if you like WNUF, you might like this type of thing.
I got that feel from it too. Yeah,
I like, and it's a ton of fun. If you haven't, seen, but like all the people are like, it's groundbreaking, it's doing something brand new. I'm like, I've seen like Ghostwatch, I've seen this. I'm not saying it stole from those, but clearly influenced, and it does its own thing with it. It's very cool, and it is absolutely. I recommend watching it. Lots of fun, really cool. Ending sort of started to fall apart for me, but it didn't ruin it by any means. And you go on for a roller coaster ride. That was a lot of fun. I saw Abigail in the theater. Loved that. As I mentioned in the attackers group chat, that you should join if you're an attacker. You can be in this group where I give little reviews in there. Dan Stevens makes me question my sexuality, and he's wearing like Dahmer glasses in this movie. He's not even trying to be sexy, and he's just so cool. Like, I want to be him. Loved Abigail, stylish, bloody, maybe the best explosion since From Dusk Till Dawn. Just the way these, and I love a movie where there's like a group of ragtag characters. Here's the big muscle. Here's the smart guy. Here's the, funny girl who's unhinged. Here's, everybody has their role and they play it up. And it's sort of like Clue with a killer vampire in the house. It's awesome.
Is that the same house they shot Ready or Not in?
I don't know.
It looks like it.
It looks very similar, yeah. And goddamn, yeah, that movie is getting a sequel. Like, what a blast! And they have this thing now where they like find their people. They have the lead actress from the last two Scream movies that got fired from the new Scream movie. She's the lead in this, and they have the girl from Lisa Frankenstein, and Freaky. Yeah, she's badass. She's in this. And like I said, Dan Stevens, great ensemble cast. Loved it. Bloody, fun. It didn't do well in the box office, but I have a feeling when it hits streaming or physical media, everybody's gonna wish they saw it in theaters.
Oh, it did.
Another.
I thought it had done well.
Nah, not too great. This is like the lowest box office in a long time weekend.
Oh.
It
Well,
didn't even
y'all are missing out.
Yeah, Civil War still number one after 4 weeks.
Cool.
Another movie, speaking of seeing in theaters that everybody's going to regret not seeing, is The First Omen. And this was supposed to go straight to streaming, and it tested so well that they decided to put it in theaters. Unfortunately, they put it in theaters like at the same time as Immaculate, so sort of shooting themselves in the foot. This movie, holy shit, it has, it silently came out. I didn't know anything about it. Found out it was actually a prequel to the original Omen. that sort of piqued my interest. Then people are saying, it's really good. I didn't expect that. And I'm thinking, well, your expectations are so low. Of course it's going to, if it's anything but awful, it's going to really be good. So I tried to keep my expectations in check and saw it, and I was blown away. I sort of went in thinking, I just saw Immaculate. There's no way it's going to really do much new, and it's completely different. Completely different.
I was going to ask you that because I'd heard they were fairly similar story-wise.
Yeah, outside of the Catholic Church and nun story, it's like, no. This movie, honestly, like, if you started it from, like, the beginning without seeing the title cards or, like, what studios produced it, you might think this is an A24 movie. The cinematography blew me away. The performances blew me away. I was very impressed with this. I'm like, this is the best Omen movie in the franchise. And I love the original Omen. So I was pretty surprised by this one. I think people are it's going to become a fan favorite. Really like that. And I saw that like the night after we recorded. My new thing is Monday nights in the theater. It's so quiet. It's great. Because everybody goes Tuesday because it's $5 Tuesday.
I'll never go to that again.
What,
Filled with
$5
kids.
Tuesday?
All
It's fucking
kids.
awful.
It's the
It
worst.
attracts the worst kind of people.
It really does.
So, what was the other? Oh, Conan's new show.
I started watching it.
So good.
It is. So good. I love that dude.
Yes, and this is where he shines when you put him in a different country and he just fucks with people. The premise is he takes guests that were on his podcast that called in and surprises them by showing up at their house.
And I'd
it's-
listened to those 2 episodes of those 2 Norwegian guys.
Yes.
So when they showed up, it's like, oh shit, I remember them.
Yes. The show is fantastic. It's hilarious. It's Conan at his best. I'm glad he sort of realized that the late night thing was not where he shined. It was his bits on the late night. And so he was doing great stuff when he was doing the travel shows.
Yeah.
Why not just make that a show? And it is fantastic. I love it. I can't say enough. It's on Max. There's 4 episodes. We binged all of them as soon as they came out and laughed our asses off. And we'll probably rewatch them because we fucking love Conan. And that's what I watched.
All right, thanks, Tad. Now it's time to get into some movies for this episode. Brian, what is our first film we're going to talk about today?
The first movie is Blacula.
You shall pay, Black Prince. I curse you with my name. You shall be Blacula.
Blacula, the Black Avenger, rising from his tomb to fill the night with horror. Blacula, Dracula's soul brother, deadlier even than he.
You know, he is a strange dude.
You're the nut that ran in front of my cab. You're the only imbecile on this street. Boy.
Blacula,
Look at man, you found. I mean, she's got to be around here somewhere. I mean, now listen, you take your hands off of me. I don't know you.
he thirsts for your blood. He hungers for your soul. Warm young bodies will feed his hunger. Hot, fresh blood will quench his awful thirst.
Make it a Bloody Mary. Are you, into the occult?
No!
How about the, heavy stuff?
What do you think of vampires?
Vampires? I think they're possibly the most fascinating of all.
More horrifying than Dracula. The Black Avenger, Blacula, from American International Pictures.
All right, Prince Mamuwalde, who's played by the great William Marshall, is an African prince who is looking to try to abolish the slave trade. So he is going around to all the crowned heads of Europe, trying to get them to help him. And he has the incredibly unfortunate luck of making his first stop Castle Dracula. Not only is Dracula about as willing to help him out with the slave trade thing as he is to host a dinner party for the Turkish army, he also takes quite a shine to Luva, Mama Walde's wife, when Mama Walde will not give in to the indecent proposal. Basically, Dracula says, "Let me have your lady." He turns Mama Walde into a vampire and locks him in a coffin and says, "You can just stay in there and starve for several centuries," which is one of, like, it's kind of glossed over, but God, that is a horrific punishment. Centuries later, he is resurrected by accident by what fairly certain is cinema's first interracial gay couple. So this is a pretty progressive movie on several fronts. And meets at a nightclub a woman who looks exactly like Luva, and things go about as well as you could expect for a horror movie. So this was produced by American International Pictures. Sam Arkoff said in his autobiography it was one of the only scripts that ever came across his desk that was practically ready to shoot. He read it once, took it down to Larry Gordon, who was another executive at AIP's office, and said, "Let's make this. It's great." And it was extremely successful. I think the budget was only $500,000 or so, and it made that back several times over. Variety named it one of the 50 best movies of the year when it came out. And the script did have some things that did get changed, largely because of William Marshall. He had not had a ton of success on television or in movies at the time, but he had been a stage actor for a long time. He was in several things. His biggest claim to fame was playing Othello in several different iterations over the years, including a jazz musical version that also had Jerry Lee Lewis in it, which is weird. And he was actually named the greatest Othello of our time by the London Sunday Times, was the paper that. So I mean, he was a very, very respected stage actor, and he was also a civil rights activist. And when he came onto the picture, it's like, well, it's a lot of money, it's good publicity, I'll do it. But originally, Mama Walde was not an African prince. He was a dude named Andrew Brown. And that was where he had the biggest problem with it. He refused to do the movie and the whole thing about Mama Walde trying to end the slave trade, that was his addition to the story. Because Andrew Hogg Brown was one half of a popular multimedia comedy duo called Amos and Andy, which I'm sure is a familiar sounding title. It started in 1928 as a radio program, but it was based in minstrel show traditions, and it was created by, because fucking of course it was, two white guys, Freeman Gosden and Charles Correll. And Amos was the honest, hardworking, straight man character, and Andy Brown was every inch the unflattering stereotype. He was gullible, stupid, lazy, overconfident, and Marshall said, "I will not be in this movie unless you change this." He said, "You need to have a property that will be of interest to your target audience," which is, of course, African American people. And he said, "He's got to be meaningful." And that's where the change to Mama Walde came from. And he did make it meaningful. Like I said, there are other good things in the movie. The scene where the cab driver takes out Elisha Cook Jr., that is a creepy scene when she comes back to life in the morgue and runs down the hall at him in slow motion. There's some shaky stuff. A lot of the vampire makeup is makes Tom Savini's blue pancake makeup in Dawn of the Dead look good. And I, to this day, cannot understand why when Mama Walde vamps out, he grows sideburns that look like they belong on a Poverty Row werewolf.
Yeah.
But God, Marshall just owns this movie. That voice, his presence, and he's so. Even in the goofiest parts of the movie, he just exudes dignity and gravitas. Like this, like he's making this, he's elevating it almost to the level of his Shakespearean performances just by how fucking good he is. I love this movie. I actually like the sequel, Scream, Blacula, Scream, even more, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So, what do you guys think of Blacula?
The way this ends.
Just like every,
Well, you'll just
just
have
like
to-
every Dracula Hammer sequel.
Well, those usually involve someone accidentally bleeding on the body of the vampire that they just found. Scream, Blacula, Scream is a voodoo thing. But anyway, what do you guys think of Blacula?
This is not a first time watch for me. I've seen this.
Is it
several
for
times.
anybody?
It is for me.
Oh,
I love this movie. If it pops up on, I think Shudder had it for a while. It would pop up on one of their channels. I'd start watching it wherever it, was in the middle or at the end. I don't care. I actually think a friend of mine had this on VHS, and I thought it was going to be like, the first time I watched it, I thought it was going to be like a parody. Because it was at that time when it was like scary movie and not another teen movie. I'm like, Blacula, oh god, like
well,
the
and
Wayans
the
brothers
title
did
is
something.
so goofy.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's right on the nose. Literally, like, this is what it is, and it's such a cool vibe. And as someone who came to this later, I started seeing like, oh, it had influences on a lot of other stuff. Even one of my absolute favorites is Black Dynamite, and you can see a lot of influences from this movie in Black Dynamite, in just that whole genre. And I adore it. It's awesome. I love that he's just walking around with a cape, and only a few people are like, this guy's sort of weird. Like, no fucking kidding. He's walking. Yeah, I know, but still, he's like talking about the occult, and he's not showing up in pictures, and he's wearing a cape. Hello, guys. And I just love it's just like a fucking groove. Everybody's fucking cool in this movie. Man, the women are so hot in it. It's just like it is just a cool ass fucking. It's just the coolest. Like, you know what I don't know how else to explain it. It's just a cool ass vibe. The time it was filmed in, everybody was way cooler. The music is awesome. Like the band performing at the club. I want to go back in time, man.
You get some call outs in Venture Brothers too.
Oh, nice.
You just want them chops. That's what you want, Ted.
And
Just grow 'em.
I mean,
just do it.
and the scene where they go and like check out the warehouse, and the vampires start coming out and they're fucking flying. It turns into like a martial arts movie for a second there. That's fucking cool. Like the vampires are just flying out from everywhere. I love it. They're like, flying and going through piles of boxes in slow mo and going through crates and pallets and shit. This movie's cool.
When you're talking about the music, this is actually the first horror movie to use something other than orchestral music as a score. So all the funk stuff was composed by Gene Page. The band that plays is called the Hughes Corporation, or you see them on screen. I think there's some 21st Century Limited songs in there too, but I'm pretty sure Hughes Corporation is the one that's in the nightclub when you see them. But Gene Page wrote and produced records with Barry White, Aretha Franklin, Marvin Gaye, the Jackson 5. So I mean, he knew what he was doing. That's why the soundtrack is so fucking good.
Yeah, like you said, if you went into this blind, you would think that it is supposed to be a joke, and the way they play it straight, and it's not. It's good. It's a good movie.
Yeah. How great are those animated credits too?
Oh, yeah. I had that in my notes. I have in my notes, coolest opening credits ever. That's like literally what I wrote, because it's like the minimalist black, white, and red. Just ahead of its time.
Yeah, I appreciated that it wasn't a parody in any way. It wasn't a.
Oh yeah.
It was straight up serious. It was a first time watch for me. As much as I completely agree with everything y'all have said so far, on top of that, I also in 2024, I just don't think it holds up as a very good movie. But I mean, like, I'm gonna call you Blacula. I'm like, come on, what? Nope, that's just not something you say.
That's a little cheesy.
Yeah, it's super fucking cheesy, and then it doesn't stop doing that. But But no, but also, yeah, it was good. I mean, I'm super glad I got to see it, and yeah, I want sideburns.
I swear I've seen this before, but watching it this time,
You're like, maybe not.
maybe not. Have you ever had those movies
Oh,
where
yeah.
you're like, oh, I've seen that, and then you go to watch it, it's like, either my brain is that bad now, or maybe I've only just seen bits and pieces. I mean, it's a pretty infamous movie from its era, so Shirley's seen. I don't know who Shirley is, but I've seen, and Shirley has seen clips of this over the years. And
it's also possible you saw Scream, Blacula, Scream, and just because a lot of the same.
With as many of them comp tapes and trailer loop shit you watch, it's like,
oh yeah,
you've seen it.
So so I didn't remember a whole lot of it myself, and I gotta say, yes, William Marshall is amazing, and like I could listen to him read the phone book because just that voice, man, that voice is amazing, and his performances in this is great. I love him in his character. That fight scene in the warehouse with the other zombie vampires is amazing. I have a question. Did I miss something? Those were just like lamp oil containers they were throwing at them, right? Non-combustible lamp oils that instantly turned vampires into a pile of flames.
If lamp oil's non-combustible, it wouldn't be very good for a lamp.
But it had nothing to ignite it, is what I'm saying.
Oh, yes. It's not nitroglycerin. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, I'm wet. Dang.
Well, that's too
don't
much
light a
information.
cigarette. I'll go up. Were they all just smoking cigarette? They just went up in flames pretty
It's
easily.
the 70s, so probably they were.
Everybody was flammable in the 70s.
Yeah, but there's just some choices that I feel like the movie came off a little bland for me, and just some decisions made. Yeah, it's kind of goofy. For me, it's not so much goofy that he's walking around the streets of New York or wherever with this cape and his outfit, and just like he's a normal person, but the fact of like, he's this mysterious vampire character. Why is he just walking the streets? We finally get to see him turn into a bat towards the end of the third act, And I kind of chalk it up, and I kind of felt like it'd be cool if they went this direction, but they didn't really explore it very well. It's the fact that he's just now resurrected as a vampire for the first time, so he's just learning. It felt like they were going in that direction, but I felt like it could have explained more of that. Of he's just kind of learning who he is now and what he is.
Because he's been locked in the damn coffin since he got turned.
Yeah, exactly. So he doesn't know all of his own rules. He doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't know he can turn into a bat. But it kind of took away from me, just him walking the streets. Kind of took away some of the mystery, the horror, the elegance of what him as the actor is already doing. And then leading into the moment that led into chasing him into the warehouse was really kind of awkward too, because he was choking somebody out, and the main hero comes in and just like punches him or pushes him, and he runs away like a little bitch. And then they go chasing after him. I'm like, you already know this guy's like this monster vampire, and you guys are gonna chase him down.
He's like luring them in, though, yeah. But
I get that, but it came off as like, I'm going home.
Hurts.
So, yeah.
And some of the clunkiness could also be because William Crane had never directed a feature before.
Yeah.
He was really young at the time. He'd only made some TV episodes. So, I mean, it's not a perfect movie. And like I said, I actually like the sequel a little better. But
yeah, I want to watch it now.
It's one of those movies where, like, people know the title Blacula who've never seen it. People who don't even like horror movies have heard the title of this movie. Yeah. It's one of the most famous exploitation movie titles ever.
Yeah.
and of course it has its flaws, but I still love it. I can easily overlook the flaws for how many genuinely good things are in it. And especially because you would not expect a movie like this to have any genuinely good things in it. And a lot of the stuff, because after this happened, this was the first, there were blaxploitation action movies before this. This was the first black horror movie. And they tried to do more after this, and some of them turned out pretty good. JD's Revenge, for example, is really good.
Great.
But of course, there are things like Blackenstein, which aren't even fun bad. That movie is just excruciating. So, considering how badly this could have turned out, it is astonishing that any good came out of it at all, let alone how much good.
Another one of my favorite blaxploitation horror movies is also directed by the same director. What's it called? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Black. Is that the? Am I saying the title right? That one's really good too. I like that one a lot.
And of course, Sugar Hill.
Oh, I love Sugar Hill. Yeah, heck yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, what trivia do you have for Blacula?
While the film was in its production stages, William Marshall worked with its producers to make sure his character had some dignity. His character's name was changed from Andrew Brown to Milwade, and he received a background story about his being an African prince, so he had been turned into a vampire Dracula in 1780. According to the American Film Institute's catalog entry for this picture, William Marshall's... how do you pronounce it, Brian?
Which?
Mawalde?
Mamawalde.
Mamawalde was the first black vampire to appear in films. And the film was popular in the U.S., debuting at number 24 on Variety's list of top films. It eventually grossed over $1 million, making it one of the highest-grossing films of 1972. So it not only was great, it performed well.
Awesome.
Oh, one other neat thing about William Marshall. In 1950, a stage version of Peter Pan, he understudied Boris Karloff as Captain Hook.
Oh, whoa, cool.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. So let's move on to our next film. Jason, what's our next film?
Up next, we got everybody's favorite Bond film, Death by Temptation.
His destiny had been foretold. Its fate had been forewarned. He did not know that something so sweet could be so evil. Now, the fate of mankind hangs in the balance as Kadeem Hardison, TV's Dwayne Wayne.
This honey I met the other night was bad. Bad. Super bad.
And Bill Nunn from Do the Right Thing get busy in the first contemporary horror thriller of its kind. James Bond III's Death by Temptation. She's every man's dream and your worst nightmare.
She leaves with men, and you never see them again.
I'm on a mission and nobody can cramp my style. So if you can't get down, stay at the crib for a while. I don't mean to be cruel and know my heart.
Death by Temptation, a new movie from Troma. With new music by Ashford and Simpson, Melba Moore, Najee, and Freddie Jackson.
Joel, played by writer, producer, author, director, James Bond III. A quiet divinity student from North Carolina starts to question his faith. So he heads to New York to visit his friend Kay. That's the letter Kay, his friend dude, Kadeem Hardison, Dwayne Wayne, a struggling actor who takes him out bar hopping. That's a good friend. They meet a gorgeous seductress who turns out to be a succubus, a demon spirit luring Black Lotharios. I should have looked at that word first.
Lothario.
Lotharios.
Oh, Lotharios. Plural of Lothario.
To their deaths. When she sets her eyes on Joel, Kay turns to the help of Dougie, a drunken cop who specializes in supernatural investigations. Okay, so I promised myself all year, I'm like, please just stop being so negative, Jason. But I can't. This is probably the one thing that actually I liked about this movie, and it really helped me a lot to be even able to talk about it, is that it started off with the Trauma Entertainment intro, and then it lowered the bar in my brain enough that I didn't shoot myself while I watched this.
Well, you can definitely say at least it's not like any other Trauma acquisition.
I lost
you've ever
respect
seen.
for Trauma because of this fucking movie. This is okay. It's not for me. Next, I don't know. I can't. It's so poorly made. It's so poorly directed and edited, and this is the reason why I fucking hate films that star the writer director. It's never a good thing. It never works.
And he's the
it
worst.
does.
He's the worst actor
And
of
he's
this whole movie.
It's clearly you watch
He's
it.
so
If you
bad.
didn't know, you watch it and you go, did this guy write and direct this movie? Because that's the only reason
he's got that aura of ignorant, or not ignorance, arrogance is the word.
He's the Black Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, not
he's bad, but
Writer, director, actor.
it's the
yeah.
It was so poorly made. I checked out so fucking quick on this movie. I don't know. I mean, I watched it till the end, and Kadeem sucked too. He wasn't great.
I thought he was the best part.
I disagree. I thought he was fantastic. Like
in the
he's
first
so
half,
natural and believable and likable. Like I just wanted to hang out with that character.
Yes.
He seemed like a nice guy.
But his
Maybe the same thing that drew you away, like when I saw opening credits and I see the Trauma logo, I'm like, oh fuck no. And then
Nick, you
it
go ahead and
started.
leave.
It depends. Is it a movie they made or a movie they
Or
just
picked
picked up
up.
for distro? And this is not one they made. It's just one
Clearly
they did distro
distro.
for.
Right,
A lot
and
of the
that's-
movies they distro are really cool.
I know that's what I was just about to say was the opposite of Jason. I see the Trauma and I'm like, I have dread, and then it starts. I'm like, oh, this isn't like a Trauma movie. This is decent. I'm enjoying this, and it's not painful to watch. So to me, maybe the logo at the beginning, which this is the second time I've seen it because Joe Bob showed it, and so honestly, like having Joe Bob introduce you a movie can help things too.
Oh, absolutely.
A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down.
Absolutely. It didn't help Rotten Tail, but it helped this movie.
I don't think anything could help that bullshit. I still haven't finished that fucking
I'd watch
episode,
Rotten
by the
Tail
way.
again versus this.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Dude, I did
Really?
not. It just
this
the
has some
editing
really
was
cool
so
moments.
Bad.
And you've been lately talking about how much you love the shot on film versus digital look. Rotten Tail is like the worst of shot on digital look. This was shot on film by fucking Spike Lee's cinematographer.
I wanted to bring that up. That's in my notes. This was the cinematographer was Ernest Dickerson, who's gone on to direct a lot of great stuff himself. He
Wasn't
did
James
Tales
Bond
of
the Third? He didn't do cinematography too.
Yeah, you would think. Here's the thing that I'm
He had to
confused
have
about.
edited, right?
I wonder if this movie was made and sat on a shelf forever before they finally just gave up and let Trauma have it, because that would be the only thing that made sense.
That does make sense.
But
like literally, the film sat on the shelf and deteriorated.
But by the time this movie came, yeah, exactly. By the time this movie came out, Ernest had shot "Do the Right Thing," "School Days," "She's Gotta Have It." He was the cinematographer for Eddie Murphy's "Raw," "Crush Groove." Hey, come on, Crush Groove, right? Yet there are moments in this movie where shots are out of focus. I'm like, what happened?
They probably had a 3-week shooting schedule.
I was gonna say, you get what you pay for too.
I guess. Well, just from kind of looking at this is all like, hey, let's do our buddy a favor type of
and
film.
it probably was.
Y'all followed the story?
I wouldn't say that.
Well,
but,
there's got to be a story first, really.
Well, I just read it to you, and it sounded like things that happened in the movie.
Those things happen.
Well, yeah, because this demoness is after him because she killed his dad too. He's like part of a line of preachers who are in tune enough with God that they can pose a threat to her. That's why she's focusing on him and taking out all his friends to isolate him.
And it needed to get to that a lot quicker. There needed to be a lot more of that going on and setting up this. I felt like the character who turns out to be our main protagonist isn't set up well enough. We get his little flashback and dream sequences that kind of set up his story. And yes, show don't tell, that's great. But I don't really feel like we spend enough time with him to give a rat's ass. And
right. I thought it was Kadim's movie, not James Bond's movie.
They could cut out 50% of the bar scenes of this movie and add the rest of it to the script.
Jesus.
There are more scenes that happen in that bar than in an episode of Cheers.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah.
Although I really got a kick out of the guy who is always trying to pick up the women in the bar.
Oh, fuck that dude.
The drunk cop guy?
Yeah, the scene where he's pretending like, I'm a film producer. I'm making a new movie with Bruce Lee. Let you in on a little secret. Don't tell anybody. He's still alive. It's just, I don't know why, but that fucking cracked me up.
He had moments where I'm laughing at him, but other times I'm just like groaning at him too. Like, you can make a drinking game out of every time he says the word man in that.
Yeah, man.
Which
man
feels intentional, but at the same time was annoying.
Totally, like in Halloween. Totally.
But he was the biggest misogynistic piece of shit.
How can you not love a movie
guy.
where a girl's riding a guy feeding him grapes while a man plays in a silhouette in the fog a saxophone?
Right. So, yeah, you're right, Jason. He was the biggest misogynistic piece of shit, but the punchline to that joke is it never works. Every woman he tries to pick up is like, fuck you, you suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to hear it.
So,
and listen up, Brett. Don't go fucking watch it just because it sounds like we hate it. But it's
Brett probably already watched it on Joe Bob. So
yeah.
I don't know. I like the movie overall. My biggest complaint, really, other than James Bond III not being a particularly good actor, I don't really have. I mean, his direction isn't great, but I don't mind the story. I don't think the writing was terrible. I just think he should have got somebody other than him to be the main character. But my biggest complaint other than that, there's a really weird transition at one point when he and Kadim are going to go out to the bar. And they're there, and then there's this weird title card that says later that night.
Yeah.
And that is just so fucking clumsy and out of place.
It's like just slapped in there for poor storytelling.
Could you not have done something else to demonstrate the passage of time?
They probably had nothing. There's like,
what do we do? This doesn't make that poor sense. Editor.
Yeah.
The scene where the demoness is fucking the one dude, and she's like tickling him with the peacock feather, and then she licks the feather.
Mount?
Yeah.
How is that sexy? I about threw up.
Like, I mean, not only just texturally does that seem vile, but birds are filthy.
Yeah.
And licking a bird feather just horrible.
Like, you're going to need to brush your teeth before we continue.
Teeth, mouthwash, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Maybe
floss. Well, she sort of did floss with a feather.
I will say this. I think the TV gag in this one works better than the one in Videodrome, even though they openly said they were ripping off Videodrome.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Nightmare on Elm Street, and I was going to punch you through the microphone.
Like the whole scene, or a particular, like the stretchy
just the
screen
way
gag?
it eats the stretchy screen gag and the way it eats him. Like, I just think it's cool.
And then spits out all his guts and stuff. That was actually pretty cool.
I love that.
That was a highlight for me. And I'm with you, Brian. Dwayne Wayne was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Well, it had to be. There was nothing else.
You get a little Sam Jackson in here.
Who lost the bet? What?
Like
How does this
one
movie
scene.
exist?
All
This
these
dude
guys-
had a lot of money.
This
and
guy
he
was friends with Spike Lee, and all the other guys were friends with Spike Lee. That's how it happened.
fell for it.
At the end, when he's fighting the succubus, and you see her kind of monster face a little bit. Did that? It's entirely possible Mike's the only one who's going to get what I'm talking about. Did she remind you a little bit of the creature makeup in Hammer's The Reptile?
Oh yeah, yeah. I could see that absolutely.
Yeah, I can see why when they. It's a great fucking movie. You guys should check it out.
I trust your recommendations. Totally. Sign me up.
It's a Hammer movie.
Oh
Okay?
yeah, I'm in on that. 70s film. Give me that.
Although that scene bugs me too, though, because the succubus is choking out the guy's mom, for like 10 minutes before he decides to actually do something about it. If it was any other character in the movie, she would have had that head ripped off by the time he actually got up off his ass and started to try to fight back.
Something one of the old B-Masters cabal, if you remember that, back in the early days of internet movie reviewing before YouTube and all that shit, there was Jabutu's Bad Movie Dimension, run by a dude named Ken Begg. And he always referred to that as the hero's death battle exemption, where no matter how powerful your monster has been shown to be throughout the rest of the movie, when it comes to the hero or somebody close to him in the final fight, the monster cannot just pop their head off like a dandelion stem.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, sounds like we're pretty divided on this one. 2 yays, 2 nays. Well, Tad,
I like it.
Yay? Okay, so 2 yays,
I like
2
it.
nays.
I mean, it's not a masterpiece. It's by far the worst on this list, but
yeah, it's my least favorite of the episode by a significant margin, because I love the other two. Oops, that's a spoiler. Anyway.
But it still has some great moments, or not. I wouldn't say maybe great, good moments. Some highs. That's not a reigning endorsement, but
might go down easier if you were high. But
yeah, maybe.
Jason's just shaking his head. If only you guys could see.
He's like, "Can we just go to the next?"
Like I'd rather watch shot on VHS movies.
Well, dude, when you were setting up your oath of trying to be more positive this year, I wanted to say, dude, you don't have to with this one. You're okay. You don't have to. With this
I mean,
one.
in this, as Joe Bob says, has Wang Doodle, hangs dong like right at the beginning.
Right.
Oh, so, yeah.
It got me to the next scene, sure, but
there's where Troma was like, yeah, we'll release it.
I hate this movie.
What tribute?
And that's okay.
What tribute do you have for Death by Temptation?
Despite being made 5 years prior to Vampire in Brooklyn, it wasn't available until 1997 in Sweden as a direct-to-video release. Due to some common themes, such as African-American vampire in New York, it was promoted as a sequel to Vampire in Brooklyn in Sweden.
That's bullshit, because she's not a vampire. She's a demon.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, no matter how much you dislike this movie, Jason, it's a fuck of a lot better than Vampire in Brooklyn, because that movie is dog shit.
I don't know if I've seen that.
That is...
is that a hole in your Wes Craven filmography?
Yeah. Well, I'm
is that,
not going to rush to see it after that endorsement.
Is it Wes Craven or is it...
Yeah, it's Wes Craven.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Wes.
I was thinking...
Eddie Murphy's the star, but it's directed by Wes Craven, yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking it's the dude, Twilight Zone, Animal House.
John Landis?
John
because
Landis.
he directed Eddie
You're thinking
Murphy and
Innocent
everything
Blood,
else. Yeah.
Which is another vampire movie. But
That's
Innocent
true.
Blood's really good.
Okay. Yeah, I like Innocent. Okay.
If you're going to plug any Wes Craven holes, don't watch that. Watch Fireworks Woman instead. But anyway.
I'm not going to be plugging any of Wes Craven's holes. The only other piece of trivia I had was that the house where the film was shot was owned by Lawrence Fishburne, who was married to producer Hannah Moss. That's all I got. Next movie.
Was that his sick demonoid poster that was on the wall then?
Yeah, they just left it up. That's not
'Cause
my trivia.
That poster was probably worth more than the production cost these days if you were to find one on YouTube. Or on eBay.
Okay.
Are we on the last movie yet?
It is, it is time for our next film. Dad, what's our next movie?
Our next movie is The Blackening.
This little reunion about to crack. We got the whole crew back.
Really, bitch? A cabin in the woods.
Now let's get it all in perspective for all y'all enjoyment.
You still a slave to the white man?
Y'all gonna start calling my wife the white man, all right?
Newness, here's the anthem. Put your hands up that you shoot with. Count your
What
loot
we
with.
do on Juneteenth.
Oh, hell no.
Where are you going?
Look for the fuse box.
What kind of house is this? No, thank you.
The Blackening?
Whoa! Jim Crow Monopoly.
Shit probably runs on racism.
Pick a card and save Morgan.
What do you mean, save Morgan?
Refuse to play, and she dies.
I think we have to play the game. In your predicament, the black character is always the first to die. I will spare your lives if you sacrifice the person you deem the blackest.
The blackest?
Nobody should judge anybody in here, bro.
You have 2 minutes to decide.
Shanika, she say nigga the most.
Nigga.
See?
Wait.
Y'all can't pick me. I'm gay.
Oh, Clifton. Yeah.
I can prove I'm not the blackest.
Prove it.
I've never seen Friday. I voted for Trump.
What?
Twice.
Big money, playboy, your time's up.
We need a plan.
I'm saying, don't you dare.
Don't say this dumb shit.
We have to split up.
Your time has run out. It's time to die.
There's a crazy person out here hunting us. You got Rosa Parks on your shirt, right? Would she be sitting down right now?
I mean, that's exactly what she did.
You can shut up.
Made you look. Made you look.
Why black women gotta save everyone all the damn time?
Oh, I made you look.
Yo, stop playing.
I got a gun.
That's too DMX. What are you doing?
A group of black friends reunite for a Juneteenth weekend getaway, only to find themselves trapped in a remote cabin with a twisted killer. Forced to play by his rules, the friends soon realize this ain't no motherfucking game. If the entire cast of a horror movie is black, who dies first? I saw this trailer like before everything in 2023 when this was last year when this was released. I saw this trailer so many times, but it was in our theater for like less than a week. And so when it hit streaming, I watched it right away. And so this is my second watch. This movie's hilarious. They do give away a lot of the best jokes in the trailer. But
They don't give away my favorite. I'm saving that for later.
I still, is it the O'Reilly's part? Because that made me laugh. It's so stupid.
So stupid.
That's good too, but no, it's like towards the end.
Is it during the credits?
No, nope. I'll tell you
This-
when we get there.
This movie just made me laugh throughout. I love it. It's entertaining. I think it's great. It reminds me of like the first time you saw Scream, where it's self-referential. It makes fun of itself. It's meta. I love the cast. Everybody, somehow they're all the black guy, but they all have different characters within. It's really great. It's a lot of fun. Laughed a lot. Love this one.
This
It
is so
felt
much better than Scream. Anyway, go ahead.
I feel like all the characters were portraying a particular stereotypical type of character.
Yes,
without
true.
it being
Yeah.
painfully annoying, like you get in some films where you got to have the dumb blonde, you got to have this movie has that, but they're all still just a lot of fun, and I think the performances really elevate that. The cast was great. The writing of their dialogue, I think elevates it as well. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie a lot too. I picked this one because at trivia, at last year's Halloween-a-Palooza. Tried this thing, didn't work out too well, where I let the audience ask me questions. And somebody asked a question about the Blackening, so I felt challenged. So I feel like I needed to watch this movie. I just think it's just so funny. It has a lot of fun meta moments. Okay, here we go. I'll just say it. The funniest bit for me of the whole movie. I laughed out loud at this. In the final fight with the main bad guy, and the bad guy starts calling timeout. That got me so much. It was so freaking hilarious. But that's just one example of many, many, many funny things in this movie. I feel like this is probably one of the best uses of, horror movie. Horror movies nowadays have a kryptonite, and that is cell phones. So many horror films try to focus so hard on how to deal with the cell phone issue, this little magic device in our pockets that could probably get us out of most of these horror situations. And I thought they did a great job. My favorite thing about the use of cell phones in this is like there's a block where nobody can use their cell phones, and now the bad guy has this device that
big bold letters, signal blocker,
which is a bit ridiculous.
So dumb, but
but how cool was that though? Like he can't find where they're hiding it, so the killer uses it to turn their phones back on, and all their phones start dinging because of all these missed messages. I thought that was so smart.
Really
that
smart,
was fucking genius. Followed by one of my two favorite jokes in the movie. When he finds them, and it's even been set up. That was so great that you don't think about it so much, but the guys just say like, when I get in a stressful panic situation, I throw up.
Oh my God.
And their phones start dinging, and the guy pops his face up into the vent, and immediately just a shower of vomit.
I had that in my notes as one of the most creative weapons against a horror movie villain of all time. Somebody's vomit.
Puke in the face. Yeah.
So I had never heard of this movie before. I don't know how. I assume, obviously, it played in theaters. I never saw a trailer. I don't remember our theater getting it, which, big surprise, Podunk fucking Iowa didn't get a black movie. But, so when you said this was on the list, like, where am I going to see it? Prime has it. I don't have Stars. Rent or buy, and it was the same price. It's like $5 to buy the UHD streaming. Saying, all right, whatever. I'd rather buy it than rent it, I guess, even though buying digital things isn't really buying, but that's a whole nother story. But turns out I'll probably watch this again. I fucking love this.
Yeah.
I was not expecting, I didn't know what to expect, really, because like I said, I'd never even heard of it before, so I didn't know it was going to be a straight movie, a comedy movie, whatever. It's so fucking funny.
So funny.
Dude, Clifton is the funniest fucking guy in any movie ever. Even though at times I'm like, okay, that's enough Clifton humor, but like the last half, every fucking thing he said was the funniest fucking thing. Reaching up, turning the gun straight up instead of sideways. Every fucking thing Clifton did in this movie was the
love that
funniest
bit when he
thing.
corrects the gun stand.
It just happens so fast. Everyone there ignores him. It's because oh god, he's so funny.
That's just it. I mean, the jokes just are just nonstop. You have to really pay attention. There's so much going on, and it just really plays into a lot of stereotypes and racism and all this stuff without it being like preachy, and overly in your face. It's just playing with all the having all these clever jokes based on just all these little stereotypes we've dealt with all of these years in films.
The correct answer is I'd never watched Friends.
Oh man. Jesus.
The fucking bit in the end credits were like, what are we going to do? We can't call 911. The cops will just shoot us all. And, and the guy's like, I got it. I understand. I know what to do. I can call the fire department. Cut back to some more credits. Cut back a couple of minutes later. Did you change clothes? Yeah. They might be, the news might show up. I want to look good if we're going to be on TV. And then they get nailed by the fucking fire. Oh, my God. Oh, it's so good.
I just also feel like they took a lot of different tropes and stereotypes and flipped them in certain situations. Because I liked how, everything is leading us to believe that, these rednecks these white rednecks are the bad guys. And there's just suspicion of every white person they run across in the movie is going to be part of this.
Dietrich Bader as B. White.
Yes, as B. White. Ranger B. White. Yes. And first of all, I love Dietrich Bader in everything.
Yes.
Yes. And I like how, he comes off as a bit racist.
Did you love him in the Atlas Shrugged trilogy?
I never saw those. But I'm going to say right now, he's the highlight. So, his character obviously comes off a little racist, and you're expecting that flip any minute that he is part of this plan to kill these people. But come to find out, he truly is trying to help them. And I thought that was great. It averted the expectation at that point.
His answer to the "you're invited to the cookout, what do you do?" question. I love that.
I politely decline. Yeah, knowing that my presence. Yeah, he goes on the long prepared answer.
It's like, shit, that's a really good answer.
That's what I liked
Almost
about it.
too
It was smart. The way it played with the horror and the tropes and the racism, and so it was smart as heck.
My favorite character was the one played by actress Grace Byers. She played Allison.
Yeah.
First of all, she's just gorgeous. Yeah, but when she's stoned on Molly throughout the whole second half of the movie, that is like the funniest and non-traditional stoned performance I've ever seen in my life. She was cracking me up, and it wasn't your stereotypical, Cheech and Chong style stoners or anything like that. The stuff she was doing and saying was just so funny.
It's good, guys. You should watch it.
Yeah. It is Tim Stone, the director. What else? Tim Story. What else has he done?
He did the
2005 Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four.
Oh, yeah.
And Rise and the Ride Along series.
Tom and Jerry, the animated one. And he somehow he did the Shaft reboot just in 2019. I'm looking at his IMDb, and this is Ride Along 2. I'm glad he got this. This is great. Dwayne, who's Dwayne in the movie, he's one of the writers. Dwayne Perkins. He plays Dwayne in the movie. He's fucking hilarious. I saw him on At Midnight a few weeks ago, or After Midnight on CBS, one of my current favorite watches, and he was so goddamn funny on there as a stand-up and improv comedian. He's just a funny human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's one of the writers.
Man, I could talk about this one. We should do the whole episode on this one. I could talk about this one all night. This is a good one. Now, what trivia do you have for this one, Tab?
There's quite a bit, but this is actually based on a skit by the same name created by the comedy group Three Pete. They also created a short film version based on the skit, and then it became a feature. Speaking of Allison tripping, while Allison is tripping in the woods, Shanika slaps her and says, "If you want to be somebody, if you want to go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention." A famous line from the song from the movie Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit. So it's a reference, a Sister Act 2 reference in here that I would not have caught. And then Clifton points out that he uses an Android phone and not an iPhone. This is a dead giveaway that he is the killer, since Apple infamously will not allow their products to be used by villains or killers.
Yeah, that's just an example of...
What?
Weird.
That's just another example of just the meta / really smart writing of this film, that they had that joke in there, which is also like a hint, spoilers, to who our bad guy is. And it's set up as if, like, okay, this cell phone thing is going to mean something later because it's a horror movie and we got to address cell phones. And he's going to have the only phone, but it's not charged or something like that. But no, it's a completely different spin on it, which I think is awesome.
I didn't know that. So,
and that really makes me amazed that this turned out so good, because now knowing that it started out as a skit and then a short film, making that jump to a feature length rarely works out very well for that.
Yeah.
But the fact that they expanded it and just continued to add great stuff to it. So, like, I never felt it dragging. I never thought anything felt forced. Like, the whole thing is just fantastic.
Well, carrying it through the whole thing with the jokes is what it never stops. It's so fast and so funny and so smart. It never breathes. I love it. It's just like the pacing is great.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay, so that's it for the films for this topic. But don't worry, there's still more show to come. When we come back, we will have our last couple of segments. First, though, you're going to hear a promo for our podcast network called the Prescribed Films Podcast Network. The PFBN is home to so many amazing shows, such as Screams from the Basement. Screams from the Basement with Sam and Casey is a bi-weekly horror podcast in which two friends discuss all things horror, including new, recent watches, horror collectibles, and more. Check out Screams from the Basement and all the other shows at thepfbn.com. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to the show. And now we are going to hear from you guys, the listeners. Here's Jason with shout-outs.
It's time for
Shout-outs! 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 Shout-outs!
all right, we asked, what are your favorite black horror movies? And notice Tad left out in the name or not this time. On the Facebook group, the group edition, we got attacker Abe Kirshner says, The Black Coat's Daughter was an awesome A24 religion horror. Yes, it was so freaking good. And the horror adjacent Lords of Chaos is about black metal band.
I love that movie.
Which was a bleak but amazing trip. Oh yeah, man, that movie rules.
Speaking of Lords of Chaos and Trip, so that was the sort of fictionalized version of the true story of Mayhem. Have you guys seen Heavy Trip?
No.
It's a fucking hilarious comedy about a black metal band. It's sort of a cross between Lords of Chaos and Detroit Rock City, but about a little, podunk Norwegian startup black metal band. Highly, highly recommend checking it out if you can find it. It's very, very funny.
Sounds familiar. I'm wondering if I have seen it. I apparently don't know anymore.
That's true. Even when you think you do.
Yeah.
Up next, we got our pal Willis Wheeler. He says,
nice.
Here is mine, and wait until you hear what he says. He says, here's mine in no particular order. They're all Tales from the Hood. It's great.
Awesome.
Blacula. Beloved. Scream, Blacula, Scream.
Hell yeah.
Candyman, 90s and 20s.
This man understands the...
yeah, he got what we were going for.
Yeah. But then he says, Death by Temptation.
Yes.
All
Welcome to the dark side.
Oh.
Lloyd Kaufman said that was the best movie they ever released, so,
Oh,
yeah, in his opinion.
That's
well,
Cannibal
that
the
means
Musical is way better.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay, over on the Facebook proper, we got Nightmare Junkhead.
Woo!
First one that comes to mind is People Under the Stairs. And I recently took in Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde.
Oh, nice.
And The Thing with Two Heads. Both highly recommended.
Hell yeah.
Now,
Rosie
you love
Greer
it.
and Ray Milland, yeah.
I love that movie, but it is a hard watch if certain racial slurs trigger you.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot.
And then the last shout out we got, sort of, is over on X. We got Horror Through Her Eyes podcast at Horror Her Eyes. Says, okay, I know y'all been going through colors, but this post has me confused. You mean black or black? All caps black, question mark. Well, now you know, Horror Through Her Eyes podcast.
Do they? Because I don't.
Yeah, I still don't know.
We weren't even sure until not too long before we had to pick the movies for this one.
Audibles? What happened? All right, and then you know what? Your actual favorite segment of the show. We got the voicemails here, and I'm scared because I haven't vetted this first one, so we'll see.
Boy.
I know. Where'd they go? There. Here's Godzilla.
Hey, everybody, Attacker Brian here from my bi-weekly phone call, and it sounds like on this episode of The Rainbow, the Attack of the Killer Rainbow podcast, the crew's talking about movies with black in them, or black in the whatever, you know what I mean, black in the title of the movie. Sorry. I'm kind of a little shook up. I'm hoping that we can get back to like some killer furniture next episode or here pretty soon. You know, like Deathbed, The Bed That Eats, or The Mangler. Or there's one Japanese film about a killer heating element or a killer space heater.
The fuck?
Battle heater? That sound right? That sounds fun. But if we're going with just movies and with black in the title,
no,
you get your normals, you know, the Black Phone, Black Sunday, Black Sabbath. But if you want to really have fun, how about Blacula or Blackenstein, or Black Devil Doll from Hell? I bet Brian Clark knows some of them. And,
I'm
you know,
aware
this
of it. I haven't
episode,
seen it.
I'm going to call out another person. How about that Jason guy from Cracktastic Plastic on the PFPN? I think he should call the show and let us know what some of his favorite movies are next episode. I think that'd be fun. You guys have a good weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.
Blackenstein? Brian, what is that?
Is that the Mel Brooks blaxploitation movie?
I'm pretty sure he's talking about Blackenstein, the Black Frankenstein movie that I mentioned earlier. That's fucking awful.
Okay. All right, last voicemail from the Hot Rod.
Attacker Rod here again for like the fifth freaking time in a row. Where's those residual checks that God so promised me? A bunch of bullshit, wasn't it? So I guess we're talking about the color black, or lack of color, since that is what black is. Shit, maybe this will be the end of these damn color themes. But seriously, when is this going to end? Here are some of my favorite horror films with black in the title, though. Two black Christmas movies, the one from 74 and 06, not 2019. Probably should not have been called that. Let's see, Blacula and its sequel, Blacula Scream. Sequel I kind of like more than the original because of Pam Grier, because she's damn gorgeous.
Right on.
And lastly, 1980s Fade to Black. This week's PSA is, in the darkness of space, no one can hear you scream. Same could be said with the white windowless van that pulls up and lures you in with candy. That was a rough weekend. Sometimes a Snicker bar isn't worth it. Never going to do that again. Really, the message is, just say no to strangers. Until next time.
God's PSAs. Gotta love it. Oh, man. Why? I don't get it, guys. Like, everyone's just rebelling against colors. Like, what's... If I knew this was going to get people riled up, I'd have come up with it sooner. This is fun.
I know.
trying so hard to keep this going.
Just finding more colors every time you guys complain about it.
Yep. You're making it worse. All right. Well, you too can get your voicemail read on or played on the show. Just give us a call on that telephone in your pocket that takes pictures. Call 415-952-6857. That's 415-95-AOTKP. Leave us that voicemail, and that is shout-outs.
And yeah, this was originally going to just be movies with the word black in the title, and we did a last-minute pivot, and I'm not going to even try to write a joke about what we what we did wind up talking about, so here's Insane's Picks.
So I've been on a huge sleazy 80s New York kick lately. One of my favorites from the New York no wave movement is Nick Zedd, and my favorite film of his is Geek Maggot Bingo from 1983, also known as The Freak from Suckweed Mountain. Geek Maggot Bingo is a horror comedy written and directed by Nick Zedd. The film is a twisted tribute to classic horror films. It's about the insane Dr. Frankenberry, played by Robert Andrews, who repeatedly attempts to reanimate the dead with his assistant, the hunchback assistant named Gecko, played by Robert Zeus. The mad scientist has a daughter named Buffy, played by Brenda Bergman, who is semi-nude through most of the film. She falls victim to a vampire. Now, Frankenberry successfully creates a hideous two-headed creature called the Formaldehyde Man, who escapes and goes on a rampage. Geek Maggot Bingo is very off the wall and has so many odd characters. Besides Dr. Frankenberry, Gecko, and Buffy, there's also the Rawhead Kid, played by Richard Hell, a punk rock cowboy who shows up to save the day. And there's also the vampiress Scumbella, played by Donna Death. And also, legendary horror host icon Zachary even shows up to be the narrator for this film. It was released in 1983 and received many negative reviews. The East Village Eye reviewed it saying, I have never in my lifetime of experience with low budget films seen one this low. It lies somewhere below the subculture, even beneath the New York subway system. TV Guide panned the film, calling it a nothing little zit of a 16mm film that attempted to make fun of horror pictures, but instead mocks the technical Renaissance man Nick Zedd. Sure, the film is technically inept with its bad sound, bad camera work that looks like your family's home movie shot by your creepy uncle who barely understands where the record button is. The acting is way over the top to the extreme, mostly yelling through the whole film just so they make sure that the sound can actually pick up what they're saying. And the sets are all made out of like cardboard by like some cheap high school play. But to call the film amateurish, I feel like is missing the point. Even though all the sets are cheaply homemade, there is still a lot of work and craftsmanship going into making these sets. Sure, Nick could have just easily driven into the woods somewhere to shoot the exterior scenes, but instead, on a stage, he made these like awful fake trees for the actors to act against, and ends up achieving something that you've never really seen in any other no-budget film of that time. Now, the effects may look goofy, but they are also extremely creative, with a very young Screaming Mad George as the man behind the such effects as the two-headed, three-armed, three-legged mutant monster as the Formaldehyde Man, or getting heads ripped apart and faces melting off. There was a special screening held at the Museum of Modern Art in New York on January 31st, 2018. A special screening was held as part of a New York film and video no-wave transgressive movement. It played alongside Zed's other film called Police State. At another screening with the Collective for Living Cinema, Zed shot a couple of people planted in the audience at the film's end, bursting blood bags for extra effect. Geek Maga Bingo, with its no-budget production value, actors yelling their lines, the shoddy 16mm film stock, and the music soundtrack that often dominates all the audio in certain scenes, it reminds me of the early works of John Waters. And if any of what I said interests you at all, be sure to check out Nick Zed's Geek Maggot Bingo.
Nice.
Yeah, I've never seen a Nick Zed movie. I should probably fix that.
I have the DVD of it. I'm not sure if you could find it anywhere. I know his other film he's kind of infamous for, They Eat Scum, is last time I saw it, it was on YouTube in its entirety. That might be your best bet in trying to find any of that stuff.
Imagine the days when micro-budget horror movies got reviewed by TV Guide.
I know. When I found that review, I'm like, what? Yeah. Yeah. It maybe benefit the fact that all of that's in New York, I would assume. I don't know. Anyway, so that's it for the show, folks. I want to thank everybody for listening. This was a good one. Had a lot of fun. And if you need more Attack of the Killer podcast in your life, you can find us everywhere. The TikToks, Facebooks, the X, the Instagrams, Threads. What am I missing? YouTube.
TikTok.
Oh, subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. Yeah, did I say TikTok? Yeah.
I know you want to say it again.
Yeah, TikTok. A lot of stuff on that. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Attack of the Killer podcast. We will talk to you all next time. See ya.
Oh no, could this be the end of? Attack of the Killer Podcast.